better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Rob.
As I think I indicated in a previous podcast, I finally wrapped Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which I gotta say, really fun adventure to run. The middle part is weird. I think we discussed this.
In our review, yeah.
In our review, actually solving sort of like the mystery part of it is not intuitive at all. The clues make sense if you wrote the adventure, and if you're the DM, they don't make any sense to the players.
The hardest thing of all is writing a mystery that your players can solve.
Exactly. But it was fun, and the NPCs are just tremendously well written. My players got super into a lot of them. It was a great time.
Who's the standout NPC of that adventure?
Oh, the standout NPC is gotta be Dasher Snowbeetle. Who is a throwaway were-rat, one of the Shard Shunners, a gang that inhabits the Troll Skull Alley, who, again, I threw in as purely... he's in the module, but, barely important at all, but I sort of, threw in him in an encounter, and one of my players is a druid who turns into a rat sometimes, and so Dasher, became enamored of her and tried to woo her and ended up as the bartender at the inn that they started out.
I think that violates several Waterdeep health codes to have a were-rat as your bartender.
It absolutely does. They kept paying off
plague fleas falling into people's ales.
But Dasher turned his life around. He stopped, running with the Shard Shunners and became a respectable member of the community. Never did, I think, achieve his goal of becoming the paramour of my dwarf druid, but that's okay.
I want to create an evil organization now that is a bunch of wealthy aristocrats in a city that wants to give jobs to were-rats. To make them earn a good wage for an honest day's work.
The Waterdeep... neoliberal council of
philanthropic
justice
radophiles.
Also, another good one was Barnabas Blastwind, who is one of the detectives that investigates.
Sounds like a gnome to me.
I think he's a human, but it didn't matter. I gave him a very obvious Sherlock Holmes voice, and my players hated him. They hated him so much, and he kept showing up. The thing was, I made sure that he was smart enough.
Here's the thing, is Sherlock Holmes should always enter your campaign, or a Sherlock Holmes-like character, as a villain.
Right. So
never as an ally or a hero.
Never as an ally. The thing was, he was more of a rival, a problem, because he was smart enough to know that they were constantly lying about their own investigation, but not quite good enough to, catch them in the act, and so he kept showing up. And, they
just a little bit too late.
Just a little too late. Generally, a mostly amicable person. But yeah, there were a bunch of those.
You should take him, now that he's been upstaged by the player characters, and have him go mad and turn into a Moriarty mad genius.
I intend to bring him back because he was a lot of fun. My players also loved, they fell in love with Vajra Safar. They thought, I showed them the picture of her looking badass with her, cool black staff, and they just, are obsessed with her. Same with Savra Bellabranta of the Order of the Gauntlet. Anyway, the point is, it wrapped. Had a good time. Like I said, one of the greatest things about the adventure is the NPCs, which are very interesting and well written, and it gives you, if you are interested in this, and you're the kind of DM that's willing to let things fall where they may, a lot of room to have fun with the characters involved. But now I'm done, right? So I have sort of given them a couple of options. I've seeded a bunch of different hooks, but basically what I've done, and this isn't a secret to them, but they've got an option to either head into Undermountain, where there are lots of quests to be had, or they can head out to sea.
Ooh.
And begin what is part of the Ghost of Saltmarsh, the salvage operation mission, which will lead to further adventures at sea. And I kind of am hoping they'll do a little bit of both, that they'll venture into Undermountain for a bit and then come back up for air and pursue some other things. I don't really want them to just play Dungeon of the Mad Mage from beginning to end, but I do kind of want them to power through it. It's just a very dungeon heavy. Obviously, it's all dungeon.
Yeah.
And there's not as much room for role-playing or adventure or, the things that this group has been so good at so far. So I'm hoping to do some, limited adventures, because I do like dungeon delving, but we've had a lot of fun with role-playing and with character development and with a lot of that other side stuff. Not side stuff. Stuff that's not initiative-based.
Right. Well, I'm glad your Waterdeep: Dragon Heist adventure is continuing on. It seems like you've created a solid group with fun NPCs.
I told them that think of it as sort of an establishing your story. It's an origin story, right? For the party is what Dragon Heist is, right? It gets you to level 5. You've established yourself. You've made some stories. You've made some tales. You've developed a reputation. Come in with some factions.
That's such a great way to think about your first 5 to 10 to maybe even 20 sessions, right? If you really want to do a long campaign, right? Is to think about those as this establishes who the characters are, because you don't really know. Some players do when they create a first character, what their character is, what motivates them, and you don't really know what the big power players in the world are going to be. I'm doing this sort of similar thing with one of my campaigns, right? We've established, I think, 2 big factions so far, and everyone's characters are lining up. My favorite NPC so far has been not yet knighted, but Sir Ian Fleming, who is just a tweety, annoying asshole British spy who has only gotten the better of the players because they did some very incompetent things. But he murdered an NPC that they liked, and so now he's a villain, and he has no good skills other than he is good at Baccarat. And he knows lots of important people.
What other skills do you need in life? Give your players NPCs they can hate. Not like villains, but really somebody with some complexity. Somebody with, real dimensions. Not just like a mustache-twirling evil guy,
Or you can always flip them. 2 sessions before, the players spent, I think, about half of the time talking to the Undersecretary for Colonial Affairs, one Winston Churchill, who is a sort of a diplomat in service of the Greater British Empire. And he was so mean to everyone they didn't like at a party and made lots of jokes that the players loved him and completely forgot that everyone else had said, this guy's really evil, wants to fuck us over. And now they like him, but they know that he's working, he's bad and wants what's bad for everyone. Except, of course, they are on similar ends about, killing Nazis. Other than that, he wants to fuck over everyone.
Everyone.
Which I think I'm playing Winston Churchill, right? I don't know. You can judge that as
No, it sounds basically perfect to me. And I have missed the last few sessions of this, but I'm hoping to jump back on because I want to be a part of the Winston Churchill loving or hating and Ian Fleming loving and hating. Though I come in with a lot of preconceptions that I think maybe some of the other players don't. So
right, if you had been there, you might have tried to stab Winston Churchill.
I try very hard to play in character, but sometimes my instincts get the better of me.
One of my friends in a game where Nixon is harvesting the power of a group of imprisoned jinn for sorcerous means, opened a door to find G. Gordon Livy in the room and just immediately killed him on sight before G. Gordon Livy could do anything. So
amazing.
Anyway,
this reminds me of something else.
Speaking of G. Gordon Livy, this is Dungeon Master of None.
Dungeon Master of None. Yeah. A historical podcast about who we would kill if we came upon them in a room in the past. This reminds me. Actually, this is something else I wanted to talk about. Matt?
Henry Kissinger. Number 2, G. Gordon Livy.
Yeah. Matt, have you seen, speaking of historical-ish things,
The Witcher?
The new season of Stranger Things?
Yes, I've finished the new season of Stranger Things, was pleased, without saying any spoilers, to see all of the Dungeons & Dragons references. I'm surprised that they can use the term Mind Flayer. I always thought that was trademarked by
They used it in the
D&D.
last season, I imagine, and they used Demogorgon in the first season, which I think are...
I don't think Demogorgon is trademarked, but I think Mind Flayer
Mind Flayer definitely is.
Right, along with, Umber Hulk and Beholder and things like that.
Yes. They must have made it, cut a deal with Wizards. But... so we speculated a while back on what the new monster would be called. Unfortunately, it wasn't actually a new monster, which was a little disappointing for me. It felt like they broke the formula a little bit, right? Like each season previous, and it was only 2 seasons, but it was like, here's a threat.
Yep.
Here's the analogous D&D monster. Here's how we use the monster manual to figure out how to fight it. I guess, yeah, I don't want to go too deep into spoilers, but it was good. I really liked the season.
There were some, tug at your nostalgia heartstrings.
Oh, for sure.
Players characters handing another character a copy of the DMG, and, this is on you now.
Tragic moments, some exciting moments, yeah, it was good. I really liked the season. I feel like it has departed from its D&D roots a little bit. It was less central to this season, but still plenty important. I want to reach through the screen and grab the children and say, just wait another 30 years and it'll be cool again.
Just wait until you're all 45.
Wait until you're all in your 40s and you can play Dungeons and Dragons without shame.
Right. One of the, it's not a...
The star of Stand By Me will be not a star.
It's not a spoiler, but one of the central conceits of character tension is one character wants to go back to the way things were, right. And that is represented in the show by sitting around a table and playing D&D.
Sure.
And other characters have sort of more teenage concerns.
Yes. And it's sad. It is something that all of us have felt in our teen years. Boys becoming men.
Men becoming dragons.
Men becoming dragons.
The one thing that I was really hoping we would see in the resolution to that was they were just like, oh, we can resolve this these two opposing forces by having everyone sit down and play Dungeons and Dragons. But that didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Maybe next season.
Great show, still a great representation of Dungeons and Dragons. But what are we actually talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about Dungeon Master of None. This is my friend.
We already did that.
Oh, okay.
We already did the part.
I'm Dungeon Master. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going as if I didn't hear you. I'm Dungeon Master
Rob.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt, and today we're talking about our second entry in a series that we're gonna call. I'm gonna call it In the Garage. Off of the shitty Weezer song. We're looking at books that might be in your garage, or that if they're not, you can just listen to this podcast, maybe go buy them, and taking the advice for Dungeon Masters in those books. So what are we looking at today?
Yeah, so we talked about doing this a little bit 2 episodes ago or something like that, about we went through the new advice in the new D&D Essentials kit. And we have some others we want to talk about. The next one that we want to talk about is Dungeon World. And so we're gonna talk a bit about what the deal is with Dungeon World, what good advice it is, and then talk about how it can help you be a better DM. Before that, we're gonna take a quick break so Rob can get a cup of coffee.
Dungeon World is a book by Adam Koebel and Sage LaTorra. It was released a couple years ago, and for people who are not familiar with it, Dungeon World takes the Powered by the Apocalypse system, imports it to the standard Dungeons and Dragons tropes. So if you're not familiar, Powered by the Apocalypse is a very versatile role-playing system with very simple basic idea of moves for players. Whenever players want to do something risky, or even things that are not risky, they roll 2d6 and they can have 3 outcomes. Yes, everything they want happens. What they want to accomplish happens with one little complication or glitch, or they roll below a certain threshold and their thing fails, but maybe something beneficial happens, or they gain experience. So it's a really fun system. There's a ton of role-playing games that are connected to it. If you haven't tried it, you should. But why did you want to look at Dungeon World, Rob?
Well, I think it's really instructive for people who are used to playing D&D mostly, or who come from a much more crunch-based system. I think that it's got a lot of lessons that you can draw from. It's not going to be perfectly applicable, but if you're trying to level up your DM skills, there's a lot of interesting advice in here. And I wanted to read that what's great about this book is that it really doesn't require a lot of like reading or rules, and there's not anywhere near as much like detail as a D&D book. Well, I guess that is great. It sort of, I guess, depends on your point of view whether or not how great that is, but I think it's a good thing to model. And I wanted to read, so there's a bunch of GM advice throughout, but I wanted to read one specific part to sort of like get us thinking about how Dungeon World approaches the role of Game Master. Here's the bit of the section called What's Dungeon World Like to Play?
All right, put on your best Adam Koebel voice and go.
Oh, God. Playing Dungeon World is all about... I'm sorry, Adam Koebel, you don't sound like that. Playing Dungeon World is all about finding out what happens when your characters encounter dangerous and exciting monsters, strange ruins, and unusual people on their quest for gold and glory. It's a conversation between the players and the GM. The GM tells the players what they see and hear in the world around them, and the players say what their characters are thinking, feeling, and doing. Sometimes those descriptions will trigger a move, something that'll cause everyone to stop and say, time to roll the dice to see what happens. For a moment, everyone hangs on the edge of their seat as the dice clatter to a stop. Tension and excitement are always the result, no matter how the dice land.
Yeah, that's a great description of not only Dungeon World, but if you take out some of the specifics about moves, I feel like that applies to any role-playing game.
All right, and this is very close to the flowchart that you posted last week, based on our conversation previously, right? This is fundamentally the core gameplay loop of any role-playing game, right? The GM or DM describes what the players see and hear, what they sense, and then the players describe how they respond to it. Given what happens, there may be a role involved. And from there it gets more complicated, but that's really the core gameplay loop of a role-playing game, which is why I really like looking to games like Dungeon World, because without all of the, like, now your initiative, here's what you do when this happens, that is so common in D&D, it really makes it easy to see that core gameplay loop, which can demystify the role of DM, which is what we're trying to do here.
And one of the two other great things I want to mention when talking about Dungeon World is one, I think Koebel and LaTorra do a great job of emphasizing the conversational nature of a role-playing game. And this is a great tip for any dungeon master, right? If you keep a stopwatch or you record your session, right? See how much you're talking and how much your players are talking. If you don't have a good balance of those two things, right? If one player is monologuing or one dungeon master is monologuing, that's not exactly what we want in a role-playing game, right? It has to be a conversation and a back and forth. The second thing is I think Dungeon World does a great job of laying out all the sort of motivations and sort of goals for a dungeon master in a very interesting way.
That's exactly right, and that's what I love about Dungeon World, and I think that's very helpful to think about how you approach being a DM. Again, we really want to emphasize, and this is a huge mistake that I think is less common than it used to be, but DM is not an adversarial role. You are not in competition with your players. You are not trying to beat them. You are playing a game together. You are all players together. And there's one more section I want to read, and this is a longish quote,
sure.
but
Go for it.
I love this. This just really like lays it out. Playing Dungeon World, and this is just what you're talking about, Matt, means having a conversation. Somebody says something, then you reply, maybe someone else chimes in. We talk about the fiction, the world of the characters and the things that happen around them. As we play, the rules will chime in too. They have something to say about the world. There are no turns or rounds in Dungeon World, no rules to say whose turn it is to talk. Instead, players take turns in the natural flow of the conversation, which always has some back and forth. The GM says something, the players respond. The players ask questions or make statements, the GM tells them what happens next. Dungeon World is never a monologue, it's always a conversation. which I think is just like it's not entirely applicable to D&D, which does have turns, but otherwise, I believe this is exactly how you should think about your game.
And for many D&D games, the time when you're in turns might only represent 10%, maybe it could be more like half, of the time you're sitting around at the table, right? The rest of the time, play works exactly like this. There are no set turns. It's a conversation like you would have at any party or over lunch with your friends, right? Where you make sure that everyone is included to the degree that they want to be included. No one person, including the dungeon master, is dominating the dialogue.
Later on, it says, like any conversation, the time you spend listening is just as important as the time you spend talking, which is what you just said, Matt. And I think that's a critical part of being a DM, is that you really have to listen to your players and understand what they're trying to do, right? DMing is not as hard as it is made out to be, but you do have to be a good listener, and you do have to be engaged in what your players are doing.
Do you have some ideas on how people can improve on this? I mean, I think the first one is just being mindful of that's a goal that you want to reach.
I was just thinking about, and I want to be upfront about, this is something that I'm kind of bad at. But one thing that DMs, and I think players need to get into, and DMs need to train them, is don't let your players say, I roll for X. Don't, like, if they walk into a room and they want to investigate, don't let them say, I roll for investigate. Make them describe what they're doing. Right. And then it'll probably result
What is your character doing?
What is your character doing? And then you could be like, okay, great, roll and investigate. But, like, this is something that I kind of got sloppy about with a couple of my groups, and it's not a huge deal, but I definitely think that if you want to practice this, start getting in the habit of making your players describe what they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they want to accomplish. It can also, sometimes your players aren't good at this.
You can just be goals, right?
Yeah, sometimes they're not good at this, so be like, great, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And then you can be like, great, so your character will do this. Does that sound right? Which is that's a great way with beginner role players to help them get there.
Right, and let's troubleshoot this a little bit. Let's say, you're prompting your players, as we've suggested, to describe what is your character doing, right? What are they touching? What are they looking at? What are they what is their, describe how they're moving through the world. And if your characters are a little stumped, right, that might mean you need to describe a little better what's in front of them.
Right.
If the room is vague and uninteresting and is not well described, it might be very natural for a player to just say, I searched the room with the investigate skill.
Right.
And
this is
my role.
I'm actually, and this is another thing that I'm kind of guilty of, I tend to like those italicized, description blocks at the beginning of sections that are common in so many older modules.
The block text.
They can be a real problem because your players will listen, but they may not really absorb what's being told to them. So it can be good to sort of release that in chunks. Like instead of saying
a conversation, perhaps?
A conversational way, instead of saying you enter a dungeon room, the stone is moldy with hideous moss.
Relief.
And and there's a relief of dwarves upon the wall clanging their hammers, and in the corner there is a barrel filled just to say you walk into a dungeon room. This is a room. It is this big. There's some things in it, and then you say, what do you do? And your players will be like, what else do I see? What do I smell? I'd like to look around, and then they are engaged. It is a conversation.
And so back to Dungeon World, Koebel and LaTorra have some really great suggestions on how to make your characters or your players more descriptive in their characters' actions, right? And we've said some of the similar things before, but ask your characters how or with what. So what are you actually doing? How are you doing it? Are you poking the chest with a 10-foot pole, or are you examining it with detect magic, right? With what are you doing these actions with?
This is something I think that many DMs are going to pick up over time. And one thing, I'm sort of on the fence about how it plays out in real life, but one of the things I love about Critical Role is how Matt Mercer explicitly gives his players the chance to describe how they finish off an enemy. This is a great, like, Aristea moment. It is a moment of glory for the players. Everybody has fun doing it, and they're all experienced role players, and they do very well. But I think it's, like, a good way to, like, easily start pushing your players to be more descriptive and do more character advancement. And I think that this particular trick is a great place to start. But it's something that can be applied throughout all of your gaming conversation.
Exactly. Take it to when your players successfully persuade an NPC. Let them describe what the NPC is, or how the NPC has come to agree with them, right? You can take this to any action. Yeah, I've got a couple other points from Dungeon World that I want to bring up. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, I wanted to talk about advancement, and this isn't exactly DMing, but I also think that this is... When I picked this, I just wanted to mine it for ideas for a DM, but also I think this is just like a really great way to approach your game in general and to help your players get more invested. So I loved the bit about character change, which is technically about leveling up and advancement. But this is what Dungeon World has to say about it. Advancement, like everything else in Dungeon World, is both prescriptive and descriptive. Prescriptive means that when a player changes their character sheet, the character changes in the fiction. Descriptive means that when the character changes in the fiction, the player should change the character sheet to match, right? So we have a ongoing and often contentious argument in the D&D community about crunch versus fluff. But I think the problem is that crunch and fluff are supposed to work together, and we haven't like quite gotten to that point. But this is a great way of thinking about it, right? So your player becomes better at fighting, maybe, right? They're a wizard, and I don't know, maybe they want to take a level in fighter, which the D&D rules don't really support all that well, but let's leave that aside. Alternatively, they become they're a sorcerer and they become a dragon disciple, right? And that canon should be reflected by, they met a dragon, or they started studying the ancient draconic texts, or they became in better touch with their bloodline, or discovered something about...
The ancient draconic texts!
Right? And this isn't necessary. Like, your characters can be like just sort of like a generalized set of, skills and traits, but it also can be good to like encourage them to think about, how does your advancement reflect the fiction, right? The story, your character development, and how does your character development affect your actual stats, right?
Yeah, this is a thing that you definitely want to discuss with your players a little bit outside of the game, right? If you want this to be, if you want players who pick up a certain spell or a certain, ability or level in a different class, right? And you want that to be connected to what's happening in the game, you want to make sure you forefront that, because, 9 times out of 10, a player will be like, yeah, I would like to pick up a level in Warlock, before we reach 5th level. Can we work that into the story somehow? And perfect, right? Everyone wins. You get something new you get to deploy in the story, and your character gets a more compelling reason for multi-classing into Warlock.
Exactly.
One of the next things I wanted to talk about in just another small thing that you can steal from Dungeon World. So Dungeon World roles are divided into categories called moves. That's not super important to our conversation as we mine it for things for other role-playing games. But one of my favorite moves is defy danger or head away from danger, where players are encouraged to choose what stat reflects their action, right? So, for example, a defy danger roll might be something a player makes when they set off a trap that explodes a fireball into the room, right? And you as the dungeon master could just say, roll a defy danger move based on dexterity, right, to avoid the fireball. However, you're encouraged to let players describe their actions and let them pick the stat that helps avoid it, right? So if a fireball is launched at the party, the wizard could, theoretically, if you allow it, describe, well, I'm going to try and quickly trace in the air some sigils of counterspelling And you could say, okay, make a defy danger roll based on intelligence. Whereas the rogue could say, I try and leap behind cover. Okay, make one by dexterity. Taking this into Dungeons and Dragons, let's say the players release a magic item that is a ricocheting Tron discus of power that sort of zips around the room. You could go around and ask your players to describe how you're avoiding or trying to stop this deadly magic item. And, one player could say, I dive behind cover. Okay, make a dexterity saving throw. Another player says, I try and track its movement and predict where it's going to be and be in the wrong other place. Okay, make an intelligence saving throw. Another character says, I'm going to try and catch it and hold it tight as it comes to me. And you can be like, all right, make a strength saving throw at disadvantage. But if you succeed, you'll stop the disc.
That's great. I love it. Dungeon World is full of these things. Again, I don't love it, to be honest, as much as 5th edition because it lacks enough rules for me to structure my games. But there are so many good ideas that I wish that D&D would learn more from. So many more ways to make the game fast and dynamic and fun, and also to give your players more agency.
Just think about, using this example. Next time you have something happens that makes your characters make a saving throw, instead of giving your characters a blanket saving throw, go around and really quickly have them describe what and how their characters are doing an action. And then, sort of in that conversation, sounds like you're trying to do this. Okay, great. That sounds like a wisdom saving throw to me.
Yeah.
Because that's the fun thing about like getting the party to be more interesting and dynamic instead of everyone making a dexterity saving throw where there's no conversation and no description of action. We can see how different characters might respond to a threat. The smart character, tries to think of a intelligence-based solution, whereas the strong character might, reach out to the pipe that's filling the locked room that's going to drown them all and stick their fist in it. And flex their forearm to
This is a great way, to make your own trap, but also like it's a great think about all like the most like exciting moments in movies, right? Like the trash compactor, right, in Star Wars, right? So your players all fall into a room and the walls start closing in. What do? One player starts like looking for like a lock or a way out. One player starts trying to like brace the walls with, whatever's there. It's
the barbarian fruitlessly bangs on the door.
Hammers on the door because that's what you fucking do if you're a barbarian, Not everybody's going to necessarily be useful in that moment, but everybody gets to sort of like build their character, right? And I think this is a problem with the mechanics of D&D sometimes is that, like, if you're not doing something useful, then you're not really doing anything at all. But if you structure your encounters a little differently, you can give your characters a chance to do something and still, like, have a good time and participate, even if they're not actually affecting the outcome of the situation, which is, how life is sometimes. Sometimes you're useless. Sometimes your set of skills are not very handy,
Sometimes you're just there to make a joke or to criticize the other players.
Sometimes you're there for moral support.
Do something!
Do something. You'll notice that many TV shows and movies have one person who's good at anything, and they solve all the problems, and everyone else is there to be funny, or the leader, or something like that,
The Doc Savage problem.
Watch any episode of Scooby-Doo and ask yourself if Velma needs anybody else in the group to do anything.
Okay, yes, you're right on that. One of the next things... always throw in a Scooby-Doo villain if you haven't already in your game, right? Just a person who
has a really complicated scheme to like drive up his property value.
Yeah, it's usually about property value and ownership, possibly gentrification. And the character is just going to dress up. Don't put a mind flayer in your game. Put Old Man Jenkins dressed up as a mind flayer.
As a mind flayer, yeah. He's got a squid mask and he's woo,
He's got a squid mask and a wand of charm person.
His dog is dressed up as a intellect devourer, right? He just put a brain on its head.
That's what they should have called the people. Okay, that's spoilers from Stranger Things.
The flayed. It should have been devoured or intellect devourers.
The next thing from Dungeon World that I want to talk about is, it does have a brief how to GM section, but one thing I wanted to pull from that is the authors write, Quote, when you sit down at the table as the game master, you do these things. Describe the situation, follow the rules, exploit your prep. And I think this was a great reminder, and I think a useful thing for us, in that it's important to remember that the dungeon master follows the rules too.
Again, you are encouraged in any game to bend and adjust the rules, right? You're not a slave to them, but you are following the rules. And this is something actually that Adam Koebel talks about online, which I actually agree with him. He is not shy about voicing his opinions about how 5th edition, D&D in general, but especially 5th edition, falls short, and how the rules often don't encourage fun play. And
yes.
and he's right about that, and we all still love 5th edition, and but he's correct that many of the rules are limiting, and not just in the ways that you might imagine, but in sort of like narrowing the focus of the game. The thing is, and I think his greater point is, of course you can break the rules, and you're encouraged to do so, and most people do for fun, but if you have to break the rules for the game to be good, that's not a very well-designed game. And the truth is about...
Rob, if the rules brought you to this point, what use are the rules?
And honestly, I agree with this. I think this is a fundamental failing of role-playing games that they have not addressed yet. That to have the most fun, to have a good game, nobody can follow the rules as written.
Right, and I mean, the idea behind Dungeon World is let's make the rules for the Dungeon Master where the Dungeon Master follows the rules, and that encourages good gameplay. Well,
right, and if you make the rules flexible enough, then it's fine. But I think if they're too flexible, then it's the game lacks structure. So this is sort of like a constant contradiction. But so this is a great point, though. And I also, again, I love what I want to do with these. What we want to do with these episodes is demystify and break down the terror of starting out as a DM. Because what I keep hearing is, oh, I don't know how to DM. Like, what do you even do? And this just really breaks it down, right? You describe the situations. You follow the rules, right? What do the rules say that you do, or your players do when they say this? Make moves, or roll dice, right. Exploit your prep. It's perfect. It's so simple.
Right. You just balance between following your players and following the logical consequences of their actions, using the rules when necessary, and then deciding when to deploy things that you have prepped.
Yeah.
I also love how this book lays out an agenda for being a game master of a game of Dungeon World. And I'm going to quote again from the rules. Quote, your agenda makes up the things you aim to do at all times while game mastering a game of Dungeon World. 1, portray a fantastic world. 2, fill the characters' lives with adventure. 3, play to find out what happens.
Yeah. Again, breaking it down to just the fundamental parts. And you can you can emphasize any of these things as much or as little as you want, so long as you are sort of like meeting these requirements, right? You can have a very, very, very deeply described world, with tons of detail, or you can sort of leave it loose and let your players, build some of it themselves. You can seed a bunch of hooks, or you can, let the players guide it a little bit more directly. Down at the bottom of this page, it says, you're sharing in the fun of finding out how the characters react to and change the world you're portraying. You're all participants in a great story that's unfolding. So don't plan too hard. The rules of the game will fight you. It's fun to see how things unfold. Trust us. Right. Which I think is good advice for any RPG.
You're playing to find out what happens. If you want to have a story with an ending that you already know, go write a novel, right?
That's right.
Now, this agenda is a great thing. Maybe a more advanced tip, right? I think you can steal this one straight away for any role-playing game, right? Replace fantastic world with world of seedy darkness if you're playing some pulp noir thing. Change the modifiers. But this works for almost any game. I think when you create a new campaign, it's a great idea as the dungeon master to lay out your agenda. So the last part of your agenda will always be play to find out what happens, but decide what types of worlds you want to portray, what sort of things you want to stick into the characters' lives. And there's your agenda, and put that at the top of your prep notes for every session, and these are your goals. These are the things you try and do at all times while dungeon master.
Again, that's why I thought of this, because this GMing section is short, but it's so good. And the next section just has a set of principles, which...
Yeah, I like these principles a lot, right?
I like these so much. So the principles are draw maps, leave blanks, address the characters, not the players, embrace the fantastic, make a move that follows, never speak the name of your move, give every monster life, name every person, ask questions and use the answers, be a fan of the characters, think dangerous, begin and end with the fiction, think off-screen too. So some of these are more...
Let's break down some of these.
More applicable to D&D than others. So I think the ones that are most important to me, so my favorite is address the characters, not the players. This is a tip that I've come up with before. You should always do this just to like keep your players grounded. Address their characters. Don't say, hey, Allie, what are you doing? Say, hey, Gertis, what is Gertis doing, right? How does Gertis respond to this situation, you know?
Super simple, very straightforward. My next one is embrace the fantastic, or, you know, depending on your campaign, again, you could replace embrace the fantastic with embrace the weird science, embrace the horror, embrace the double-crossing backstabbing of a James Bond spy game. So think about what is the like most fantastical thing you could have and try and turn it up to 11, right? The players come across a dungeon. Instead of the goblins in it eating rotting dog meat, the goblins in here eat small quintessences of time that they're stealing from a chronomancer on the level below.
Get weird with it. Embrace the fantastic, you know. As big as you can think big. This is a chance for adventure and excitement, and there's no, you know, nobody has to find assets and like program them into a game. Like you can just describe whatever you want. So have a good time. My second.
Okay, yeah. Give me your next favorite one.
My second favorite, and I think maybe this is probably my first favorite actually, is be a fan of the characters. This is so important.
Yeah, you got to think about yourself as if you're the casting director and you chose these characters and you have to sell them to the imaginary audience. So you better make them shine as much as possible.
You want to have a cool story. You want them to like have big heroic moments. You want them to, you know, do cool and cinematic and heroic things, right? It makes your players feel good. It makes you feel good. It tells a better story. You're telling a story. You know, don't punish your players unless they deserve it. But, you know,
it's like imagine a party has your characters have come up with a party of all rogues. Well, give them cool things for their rogues to do instead of punishing them by, well, you should have had a wizard, right? Think about that with every aspect of your characters. Just be a fan of the characters your players have created.
You know, you can just, like, put them in a room with an Umber Hulk that's got tremor sense and they can't hide from it and it just, like, bludgeons them to death. But, like, don't do that. You know, have them do a cool heist, you know. Let them sneak into a warehouse. You know, have them fight at a rival thieves guild. Let them be cool. Be a fan of your characters. And this is part of being flexible and having a conversation with your players before you sit down. But also it means, you know, if you've designed something, be ready to make adjustments to, you know, fit the story that's unfolding.
Another really, really simple one is name every character, right? Name every person in the game, right? There are so many stories of dungeon masters being like, my players were talking to this person and they were like, well, what's their name? And I'm like, Bob, I guess. And then Bob the town guard followed them around forever. That's fine. But like, we've talked about this before. The easiest thing to have in front of you is a list of names ready to go. Every person that your characters should meet should have a name. That's super simple and gives your world 2,000% more life if you follow this tip.
And listen, I don't like to give away that it's not an NPC I prepared for by having to go check my list of names, but everyone's players are going to figure out sooner or later that not everybody has like a detailed backstory. So give them a name and fill it out like as you go. And if you need to take up a minute to like look it up, be like, oh, I didn't look this up. Just be honest. It's you know,
if you need to take 30 seconds to improv and say, well, this town guard joined it because he failed out of Wizard Academy. Okay, there, yes. He wanted to be a wizard. He has some wizard tattoos, but he doesn't know.
But he's not a wizard anymore. But yeah, keep a list of names, keep it handy, and if you throw somebody in, write that name down, write a couple notes, and you know, I've had a couple of those go on to be recurring characters, like the talking awakened horse Invictus. I really did not mean to become an important NPC, but...
Ooh. You know, he's not really talking, Rob. It's just peanut butter in his mouth. I think the last section of Dungeon World I wanted to talk about was that you could steal for your game is a way to think about forces beyond your characters in the world. In the rules of Dungeon World, these are presented as fronts, as in, you know, a campaign front from a war. So the fronts are dangers and organizations and forces that will confront the story. And Koebel and LaTorra give a bunch of examples of how to run different types of these in broad categories. If you're thinking of sort of building a campaign, you can do no worse than reading this, you know, rather long section here.
This is a great way of thinking about your games. It's a really great way to break down sort of different aspects of, you know, your larger campaign. And this is great advice. Think of it like, let's use an example that everyone's probably gonna know. Like Game of Thrones has the War of Five Kings front, but there's also the Night King front, right? There's and then there's the Red God front and all sorts of different overarching, you know, campaign ideas, right? That sometimes overlap and work together, but are you know, distinct, right? Fronts, different groups of enemies, different challenges.
And the way to, like, a simple way to outline these is to come up with a list of, I think he calls them sort of portents or something. Some things that happen that forefront give clues to your players that this bigger thing is going to happen. And then sort of one list of impending doom. If this bad thing happens, this is how the world will change. If this front gains power, this is what will happen. So, for example, the Red God portents could be a strange sorcerer shows up. A character who could not otherwise be resurrected to life is resurrected. So this just it's a easy way to organize your big factions and conflicts that could put into the world, and a great way to create multiple ones of them and see how they interact and see which ones the players really latch on to.
So Dungeon World is this is a quick read. It's not a hugely long book. It's
not an expensive book either. Yeah. We highly recommend you buy it if you have not already.
Pick it up, support your local indie game creators. It's just it's a great resource for trying to think a little bit outside the box. There are things that you can easily directly transport, like some of the stuff we mentioned. Bonds we've talked about before. I actually think that every campaign should have a bonds section as part of their session 0 to start pushing players to interact with each other. This is a great way also to get around the antisocial character problem. Also, you can just play Dungeon World. I've played Dungeon World and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We mostly hew towards 5th edition here, but Dungeon World is a great setting and it's a great book and it's a lot of fun.
There's no reason why you can't ignore this, but my biggest critique of Dungeon World is that you can't be every species and class combination. I don't know why that's in the rules. It makes me sad that I can't be a dwarf bard.
You know what? I knew that and I totally forgot about it. It seems like an artifact, but of an older weird edition, but whatever. Anyway, definitely check it out. It's fun. We have always said that we're fans of Powered by the Apocalypse. So this is also just a great thing to look to get better at DMing.
And that's the point of In the Garage. Yeah, there's more here, but this is a book you can steal some stuff from.
Don't love In the Garage. I'm going to steal and change it. Okay. But pick up Dungeon World and check out the rest of it. It's a great resource. But let's answer some letters, Matt.
I've got a Dungeon Master's Guide. I've got a 12-sided die. I've got...
Our first letter comes from Jason. Jason writes, I'm running a slightly modified one-shot of, quote, biting the bulette this weekend. Really enjoyed everything you guys are doing. Definitely has helped me figure out dungeon mastering better.
Thank you, Jason, for writing in.
So someone was telling me it's either bulette or boulet.
I will not say Boule. It is
Boule.
Boule.
So I said it wrong the entire episode.
If Gygax intended it to be Boule, then Gygax deserves to be mocked. So I'm going to call it Boulette. I guess it might be Boule. I don't know.
I don't know. They just called it. They just came up with it because the little creature that they modeled it off of that they bought at the dime store looked like a bullet.
Looked like a bullet.
It's bullet shaped.
It's bullet shaped.
Biting the Bullet is a great name for the actual prep adventure that we came up with on here. We might also call it, as we said, Boule with butterfly wings. Stop making tremor sense.
Tremors. Ents.
I think I might just go with rumblings.
Rumblings is good. So I have
shout out to my friend Ange for suggesting that, but I also like biting the Boule.
Biting the Boule. I have thrown a couple wrenches in Matt's plan after coming in late and having punches of opinions, but that should be out soon, right, Matt?
Yeah, it should be out next week sometime along the week of this. If it's out by the time this is live, we'll have a link for it. If you don't have any money and can't buy it on the DMs Guild or like a copy of the rough draft, just like Jason, send us an email. I'd be happy to share a copy with you.
But take a look for that. Thanks for writing in, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
This one's from Nick. Nick writes, Dear Matt and Rob, I love your show so much, and it's been the single most inspiring content for my D&D experience. I tell all of my friends and my parents, about your podcast. That's great. I hope they like that. I tell my parents, and they ignore me. I'm going to be playing in a high fantasy Western campaign with trains and gunslingers and artificers. Oh my, I love it already. I'm interested in playing a Kenku. How does one roleplay as a Harvey Birdman without just parroting... Nice, Nick. Things all the time. I want to play as a Kenku gunslinger, and I don't want to be just a minion for the party, and I think that Hawkman could be quite interesting to add to the party dynamic. Thanks, Nick.
You've got the title of this email, which is Patrick O'Brien and the Flightless Cormorant.
Oh, sorry. That's why I chose this. Nick, you deserve a ton of credit for your great puns and also the title of this email. So, Nick, thanks for writing in. I have an opinion on this, Matt. What do you think about this?
So I love the sort of what do we call it, spell slingers and Western style campaign.
I love that.
Boot Hill,
the Wild West style adventuring. Yeah,
right. I mean, there's so many. There's also, just on a little bit of a tangent here, so many great resources from this. I mean, this has existed since the 80s or even late 70s. There were people writing about doing a Western with Dungeons & Dragons. Of course, there's Deadlands.
Deadlands is the best, in my opinion, Savage Worlds setting, and it's so, yeah.
Predates Savage Worlds as well, right?
Oh, right,
sorry. Older card-based system.
That's right.
Birdman questions. I'll let you take the first crack at this.
I was trying to hope. Well, here's my opinion. I think the whole Kenku can only repeat things is dumb, and I would just drop it. That's my opinion. I think it's very hard to play without being obnoxious, and I would just ignore it, especially if you're not playing in Forgotten Realms. And it sounds like you're not. So I would just be a Kenku who talks normally. That's my opinion. I hope that's not unhelpful, but I think the restriction on just being able to repeat things is really unhelpful and weird, and
Is it going to add to the drama or comedy? It will get old after 30 minutes of the game. It will not. You could work it in some other way where your Kenku, for example, sometimes parrots things out of reflex, and but he tries not to.
That would I would say have it be a tick or something that he does sometimes, but not his only way of communicating. Let me give an example of this.
Have him sort of whisper what the last thing everyone said to himself, like that kid from Malcolm in the Middle or whatever.
That's right. Here's an example. There's a Kenku encounter early on in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and the players have to interrogate them to learn what they know. And I played it straight. They only repeated things. My players hated it. It was funny, right? It turned out to be a good bit. But if it laded more than 10 minutes, I think they would have gotten very, very frustrated.
Right.
So my advice is be a Birdman. Do not repeat things, except sort of as a funny character tick. Nick, thanks for writing in again.
Up in the air, Junior Birdman. Your wings are made of tin.
Thank you.
Kenku are great. You have some great ideas for Kenku in your campaign. I think making them a sort of a under a curse is, I think, works very well with the Western aesthetic, right? There are a lot of cursed things in that.
Oh, yeah, tons of cursed things, yeah.
Have fun with your Kenku gunslinger.
All right, Matt, what's up next?
Here's a voicemail.
I guess I just had a question on what you guys thought about one of these two things, or both, if you get to both of them. First, removing the ability score requirements for multi-classing and just making it, story-based. So, you have to have a story using the multi-class regardless of the stats. Second, making the Warlocks have different spellcasting modifiers based on their patrons. So, Great Old One is Intelligence, Undying is Intelligence, Celestial is Wisdom, Fiend and Fey is Charisma, Hexblade depends on the weapon. Thanks. Oh, my name's Vic.
What do you think of this idea, Rob?
Initial reaction is that I'm fine with it, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way to break this, but I like it. To be honest, I think it's fine. I think that it's a fun twist, and I can't see any way that it would be super overpowered. And I think it would also be like a fun twist and a way to distinguish Warlocks more interestingly based on patron.
The only balance concern is that the abilities don't. Which ability is which doesn't matter too much in 5th edition. The one I would caution against is, even though it's the one that makes the most sense, would be Wisdom. Wisdom comes up more often with saving throws in the game, so having a higher Wisdom score is... or having that being your spellcasting ability is more powerful than Intelligence or Charisma. There's also some multi-class abilities that let you add Wisdom to your AC. So that's one way it can be exploited.
The reason why I'm not opposed to this is Warlocks are already multi-classing monsters, and they already, with Charisma, can add it to damage and attacks and maybe also saving throws if they... I'm sorry to display my noobishness. I've lost interest in min-maxing a lot since I started playing 5th edition, but I'm aware that there's a way, with certain dips to, make Hexblade Warlocks or Warlock Paladin dips, out of control powerful. So I don't see that doing any of this would make them any more powerful than they already are.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could caution against is if you did this and a player's like, all right, I'm going to make a level 2 Celestial Warlock, level 1 Monk. You might run into something that starts looking a little more where it could outshine some of your other characters. The other thing to consider is if you're doing this as the dungeon master, ask your players what kind, instead of making these blanket rules of dividing, as you have done logically, which ability score would go with which patrons. Ask your players, right? You're probably only going to have 1 or 2 Warlocks in your party, what they want, how they want to represent it.
If I were going to do this, I would just say you just can't multi-class. Just to, and I feel like if somebody wants to go down this path, they're going to be invested in their Warlock. So I think it's a great idea. I just, like everything, you want to make sure that nobody's abusing it. But on the face of it, I think it's a cool idea, and I like it.
All right, second part of Vic's question. Removing the ability score requirement for multi-classing, but requiring there to be a reasonable in-game or backstory, depending on start level, reason for someone to multi-class into that new class.
Yeah, I'm 100% for this. I've always hated that there's an ability score multi-class requirement. In fact, I forget about it. It's one of those rules that I forget exists. And I would never... The thing is, if one of my players was like, I want a multi-class, and they're like, oh, oops, I don't have the ability score, I'd be like, I don't care. Just multi-class. I don't... I know why it exists. I don't care about it.
I think it's mostly there to prevent characters from creating, quote, useless unquote characters, right? If you were if you took a level in Wizard but only had an 11 intelligence, but you could absolutely do that. I don't know why you would stop them.
It's one of those things where I don't think there needs to be a rule for this, so I'm absolutely for it. And I don't want to browbeat my players, but I do want them to at least be able to talk through the character reason for multi-classing. So
right, I would have this in there, but basically keep in mind that you should accept 99.9% of the reasons the character gives you, right?
Yeah.
Just make them come up with a reason.
Yeah.
As long as you're not judging and saying, all right, well, that one wasn't good enough.
It's not a good reason. No, it just needs to be a reason. Doesn't have to be a great reason. Just make them think it through. Now, Vic, I think these are great ideas.
Great idea.
Not only do I think you should do them in any of your home games, I think it would fit mostly fine in any game. I think they're very easy to implement and not hard to abuse. Vic, thanks for writing in.
Yeah, thanks, Vic.
I love these ideas. Our next one is from Douglas. Douglas writes, Rob and Matt, you guys are awesome. Thank you. The range of information and ideas you cover are amazingly helpful for someone who is trying to learn how to DM, like me. I've picked up so many great ideas and things to avoid from your podcast, and I know my first campaign will be better for listening to you. Thank you for all the time you invest in helping us. Douglas, thank you so much. That's why we do it. My first party will be my wonderful wife who is looking forward to playing as much as I am. I hope that your relationship is powerful and strong, Douglas.
Yes.
But I've played with significant other. It's not as bad as people say that it is. So,
all right, continue telling us about the wife play.
Could be a lot of fun. So I was thrilled when Wizards introduced their new rule set for one-on-one play with sidekicks and have the Essentials book ordered. If you could work some ideas into a future podcast for one-on-one play, it would help all us new wannabe DMs a ton. There's a lot more of your archives I'm listening to. Sorry, I don't want to read a bunch of more praise, but Douglas says more nice things, so thank you so much, Douglas. And I'm joking, I did not mean to imply anything about your wonderful wife. I'm sure you will have fun. It is a lot of pressure that I would not want to take on.
Stop DMing my wife. Well, no, I think Douglas makes a great point. And he is absolutely right that this should be an entire episode.
Yeah, actually, Douglas, thank you for asking. I'm happy to actually maybe even do this next, Matt. I would love to talk about this, talk about the sidekicks, talk about our experience with this, because I know we've both done like some short sessions one-on-oneing. We've done a full campaign. So, Douglas, this is a great question. And I think a lot of people do have like a little bit of apprehension because they maybe only have one other person. But you can do a one-on-one. This is definitely if you're willing to do it, a way to go.
It's a great way to play the game.
We'll take a look at that sidekicks bit and we'll talk about it. So Douglas, thank you for writing in, and we'll do a whole episode on it.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
All right, Rob, are you ready for real or fake, or are we too deep into the episode?
Okay, I will do 2 real or fakes with you.
Well, it's got okay, all right. 2. Let me cut one out.
Fine, I'll do 3. We'll do 3 real or fakes.
All right, Rob. Welcome to Wheel or Woe. I am going to read descriptions.
Real or woe, Matt?
Real or woe. Oh, that makes much more sense. All right. Real or woe.
Real or woe. It's our new segment.
All right. Here, I'm going to read you 3 descriptions of role-playing game products. Some of them are real. Some of them are fake. And you have to try and distinguish which is ready. Which. All right, here we go. Here's the first one. Not another RPG. Not is spelled KNOT. Not another RPG, math magical adventures in topology. From Imaginary Games, tagline, Be heroes, do math. 1994, Oxford. When Dr. Andrew Wiles proved Fermat's last theorem, he unwittingly breached the seal that for 358 years had held off the evil denizens of In-Dimension. Now, only the math magicians of the Order of the Last Knot can bind and seal our topological space off from these horrors and save humanity. Choose from professions like the geomancer, the arithmetician, the numerologist, and the knot binder. Claim mighty math weapons such as the sieve of Eratosthenes and the block sphere to face off against foes like Moser's worm and discrete number daemons. Be heroes, do math. Not another RPG, math magical adventures in topology.
I keep getting these wrong. I'm gonna say real.
All right, now walk me through your reasoning on this one.
I actually want this to be real. That's why I'm saying real. I like it. It's obnoxious, but I like it.
Yeah, this one's fake. I'm sorry.
Damn it! That was a good one, Matt. We put a lot of effort into that bullshit. We should. The thing is, like, I'm not any good at math, or else I would write this fucking thing myself.
Right. Maybe I'll ask one of my siblings has a doctorate in advanced physics, so I'll ask her to give me some advice on writing this one.
Okay, darn it.
Yeah.
Okay,
the evil denizens of the end dimension. Okay, here's your next one, Rob. Widdershins. You abandoned us, broke us, lost us, forgot us. But we never forgot you. We still watch over you. We still protect you from the darkness, from the things out there, from the hollow. Widdershins is a game about lost toys and what becomes of them. Using the intuitive D percentile system, characters can be made and a game started in minutes. Protect those who abandoned you. Widdershins.
I'm going to say real again.
All right.
Because it takes itself so seriously. I believe this is real.
Okay, now, Rob, you're saying this dark Toy Story game...
Yeah, 100%
is real. You're actually, unfortunately, right. That is. Someone made what if we made Toy Story, but dark? Yeah.
My logic was wrong on the last three, but as soon as you started describing how seriously Widdershins... Here's the thing. Why Widdershins?
I don't know. I did all the research.
It's got a specific meaning that's got nothing to do with toys.
No, it's just a weird twee word.
Creepy twee. I thought it was going to be like fairies or something. But
yeah, me too. And I did everything in my power beyond buying the thing to figure out why it was called Widdershins.
I got a strong feeling that that if we bought it, we would find out that there's no reason why it's called Widdershins.
I just also want to point out that the word in the description "hollow" is capitalized for no reason, other than it's a proper noun. The evil place. I don't know. The line where it switched from "We protect you from the darkness" to "Widdershins" is a game about lost toys. All right, Rob. Here's your last one.
All right, let's see if I can break even.
WWE: Know Your Role. Only official WWE role-playing game. At the core of WWE Know Your Role is the concept of Smash Mouth role-playing. What is Smash Mouth role-playing? I'm glad you asked. Smash Mouth role-playing uses the OGL D20 license, so learning the rules is easy. The system allows you to tell stories both in and outside the ring. Hold down and pin the drama, the pain, betrayal, and the trademark moves of World Wrestling Entertainment at your table. Choose from classes such as Aerial, Rough, Power, Savvy, Technical, and Manager. Plus stats for all your favorite stars such as Eddie Guerrero, The Undertaker, Sting, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I am the game and I am that damn good. WWE: Know Your Role.
I'm going to say whoa on this one. I'm going to say this is not real.
Not real? Why?
Because I have suspicions that WWE protects their trademarks so ferociously that they would not allow this, but I'm prepared to be wrong.
You're so very wrong. In the OGL... splooge of books. Somehow, someone got the license from WWE.
I can't believe it. I honestly can't believe it. I cannot believe that WWE would... Aren't they just like fucking like copyright monsters? I don't know. I guess they've got all...
Somehow in the early 2000s, this slipped through, and there is an official WWE role-playing game that, of course, uses the D20 OGL license, because you're thinking... I need to tell fake stories in the ring and the drama about the characters beyond them. I really want the D20 system with 6 ability scores, 30 skills, a base attack bonus.
Listen, it was the early 2000s. That's the only way anyone knew how to do anything.
I can't remember its name, but there is a much better indie-made game for if you want to play
like pro wrestling.
For playing a pro wrestling game.
I'm sure there's a bunch of good ones. When it was WWE branded, I was like, surely not. But
surely not.
Man.
Surely yes. All right, Rob, you're back to 1 out of 3. Again, worse than a coin flip.
Worse odds than rolling the dice. That's the kind of quality that you can expect, the accuracy that you can expect from Dungeon Master of None is, yeah.
All right, Rob. Well, thanks for talking in Dungeon World, and this is a great episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Please write us at dmofnone@gmail.com if you have
or
questions.
give us a call at 774-203-4629, the Dungeon Master hotline, 774-203-4629.
Or add us on Twitter at dmofnone. I had a interesting conversation with a listener about world building that I want to address. You can go to our timeline and see where I admitted that I was wrong, but I'll talk about that in greater detail on our next world building episode, which should be soon. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Let us know if you have questions. Let us know what else you'd like us to talk about, and we'll see you all next time. Keep rolling them dice.
It's time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it? I am the game. You don't wanna play me. I am control.